Hi friends, it's Vicki Boutin here, and I thought it'd be fun to put a little video together with basics that you need to get started on your mixed media or artful techniques journey. So here are a few basics to just get you started, and as well a little gift at the end of this new video series that I'm doing is a free class. So after I think I have about 7 different episodes I'm going to be sharing with some basic tips to use all of the Vicki Boutin mixed media that I have with American Crafts. And if you don't have that, it's okay. Grab whatever you have. And we're going to do basic techniques using different types of materials. And then at the end, from all the practice sheets that we have used, which I'm using a 6x8 version. So everything I'm going to be doing, it's going to be in 6x8 or smaller. And then at the end, I'm going to do a free class that shows you how you can bind it all to make a beautiful junk journal or art journal that you can use for your photos or just to keep as a pretty recipe book, whatever you want to do. But the whole key here is practice and play, and then use all of these tips to do whatever kind of paper crafting you do. If it's scrapbooking, if it's card making, art journaling, or you just want to get started, this is the one for you. So let's get started. I'm going to give you the basic tools that you need to create some mixed media or artful technique magic with Artful Lemonade. Okay, friends, so let's get started with basics that you need to do some mixed media techniques, or as I like to call them, artful techniques. So things that I love, basic tools, a brayer, and there's different types of brayers you can use. This is a rubber brayer, and I like it in this style handle because I feel like you have more control. And you can also have different sizes of brayers with the wire holder or metal holder as well. But these are a little bouncier and are a little harder to control, and sometimes you get lines, more lines with them. But it's still handy to have, and if it's all you have on hand, it's perfect. You have a palette knife, and there's different styles of palette knife. This is my palette knife with American Crafts. I have an art wedge, which I like to use as well. It's great if you have dexterity issues because your hand is closer to the area that you are adding pressure. And then I like as well that it has the little detail pieces on the side to add texture to your art. If you don't have something like this, another thing that comes in handy is old room key or an old gift card. It's great for mixing mediums. It's great for applying mediums. So this can be a handy tool when you're just getting started with artful techniques. Paint brushes, big thing, right? I like to have all different types of paint brushes. Something like this is my favorite. So something that is about a number 12 in a round brush is great for watercolor techniques. You have water brushes, which are good if you're on the go and you want to have your water in a little container that you can press the valve. It releases and controls your water. Great for coloring stamps. So you have lots of different options. And I always say, sometimes your results aren't exactly what you wanted, and it could be a result of the type of tool you're using. So you want to make sure you have a brush or paint brushes that they don't have to be the most expensive paintbrush around, but you also don't want the cheapest brush. So if they're like dollar store brushes with the, I don't even have one to show you because I wouldn't use it unless maybe just for mixing paint. But the brush fibers on the end are not in a nice tip, and they might feel a little bit like straw. It's hard to control your mediums if your paintbrush isn't half decent, at least, okay, let's just say. So then you have paintbrushes. We're going to be using those for our techniques. Stencil brush. I love applying my products and any mixed media stuff that I'm using with the stencil brush. This one, again, is mine, the Vicki Boutin one. I like it because it has a flat edge and the bristles are nice and stiff. So I find it's great for controlling your mediums. But again, the best tools you have are the ones you have on hand. So if you don't have this, it's okay. Use whatever you have. I like to have a mister, and this is a Ranger one, but I have tons of them around, dollar store, whatever. It's great for adding water. You want a cup to hold your water, and I have tons of these too because I like to have little funny ones that make me happy, but it can be a plastic cup. So these are just kind of the basic tools that I'm going to be using for my whole journey to creating something this week in an art journal, DIY art journal kind of fashion. But I wanted to just give you basic tools that you can use for mixed media that hopefully you have on hand or aren't too hard to find. So Brayer, palette knife, stencil brush, art wedge or room key, some decent paint brushes, and a mister for water, a cup for water. And then of course, paper towels and baby wipes. And if you have old cloth around, this is great for wiping up your medium and you're not going through a ton of paper towels. So those are some basic tools, and I'm going to show you a few things that we can add to this. So in addition to basic tools, I like to have things that make creating art a little easier. So that being said, one of my favorite things are stencils. So these ones are just all the stencils I've brought out with American Crafts. But any stencils, Tim Holtz, Diane Reevely, Crafter's Workshop, sorry. Any stencils that you can get your hands on are great. You can create your own stencil art with cut files. So you can print things with your Silhouette or your Cricut, your brother's Scan and Cut, whatever you have that you can use to make the art. So you don't have to be a master artist and that you can draw and do all those magical things when you have some basic tools. So the other thing I like to use is stamps. Stamps are another great way to add beautiful art and not have to have talents to draw. So we have all different styles. So grab whatever you have or whatever you can find, and that is another tool. So we have the basic tools and then our stamps and stencils. And these are great things to have for just getting started with creating mixed media and artful techniques. The other thing I really love to use are things I can find around the house. So painter's tape or washi tape. We have sheets of plastic are great for using as a mixing palette and then for also applying your art techniques. We can make our own stencils with a circle punch. So I have the circle punch and I just punched out and made my own stencil. It can also then be used in your art when it's done. Bubble wrap in different sizes, tissue paper. These are all great things for adding artful techniques. You can also use saran wrap. You can also use aluminum foil, but these are great things to have for creating art. I'm going to include the next two things as tools rather than just mediums that I'm going to use, although they also are great for creating techniques. But two things that I love to have on hand, especially when I'm trying to prime surfaces, are gesso and matte acrylic gel. So again, these are Vicki Boutin products, but if you have any gesso on hand, that's fine. It will be perfect. And this will be great for priming and creating different surfaces that will accept our art techniques. And then this is just a clear version that we're going to also use to prep and seal, but it's matte acrylic gel. And I love these two types of products. And then last but not least, we need something to create the art on. I love to use this paper. That is, again, one of the products from my product line. It's called foundation paper, and it is 140-pound weight paper. So it is smooth white and great for accepting wet mediums, and you won't get a ton of buckling like you would with just a regular sheet of cardstock. And I've cut this down and prepped my surfaces for the art I'm going to be making in this week-long series. So I have different foundation paper cut. I have lighter weight, a 110 cardstock cut. The book is going to be that I'm going to be making at the end of all of this is going to be 6x8 in size. So I've prepped watercolor paper, foundations paper, all in 6x8s. And I have a ton a big stack that at the end we're going to have a free class where we're going to bind all of this. So I've prepped it all, and in different sizes. The biggest that I'm going to use is 6 by 8, and then a bunch of other sizes that we can add into the little album we're going to make, the Junque Journal at the end. And we can make pockets and interactive bits out of this as well. So these are all the basics that we have. We have our foundations, or what we're going to add the art on. We have our basic tools, right, that I shared with you. So you have your brayers, your palette knife, your stencil brush, your paint brushes, different things to apply the art. We have the things that make making art a little easier, like stencils and stamps. And then found objects around the house. Anything you can find. Just whatever you have on hand. And any combination of this stuff is great. The other thing I didn't mention, but you might want to add, is a good stamping ink. Archival is what I use. It's a Ranger product, but you can use VersaFine, or again, whatever you have, but you do want it to be waterproof ink. So when we're doing these techniques, that it's not going to run on you. And the other thing you're going to want to do is prime some of your pieces of paper just by brayering some gesso and as well some matte acrylic gel. I did prep a few different pages with black paint and stenciled a few, and I'll share those as I go along as well. But this helps if you only have cardstock. The gesso will seal it, so all your mediums will sit on top and won't go into the very fibrous paper, and you get different effects. So that's the other thing you want to do when you're prepping, is get some of the paper prepped with gesso, which is going to act as a sealant and base. And that's it. I can't wait to get started. So grab your stuff and start waiting and watching for the next videos, and we're going to have tons of fun doing artful techniques with different Vicki Boutin product.